Good evening and welcome to the Bobby Moore Stands. My name's Chris, and tonight, no Gary, I'm afraid. However, fortunately, we do have my mate Brian, who's joining us from West Ham Fan TV, doing a bit of moonlighting tonight, aren't you, Brian? How you doing? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Chris. Always a pleasure to touch base with you, and thanks to Gary as well. So
Yeah, no, it's
looking
great
forward
to
to
have
it.
you on, mate. Great to have you
Thank
on,
you, man.
and what a time to get you on as well, mate. You know, what a time to get you on. First home win of the season.
Do you know what? It's really good that we're going to be talking about something positive for a change. Do you know what I mean? It's been a little bit doom and gloom over the last few weeks and stuff because results haven't go our way. The way how me and you are as individuals anyway, we're probably more sunny side up. So, but it is nice to actually get a result and be able to kind of like talk about it and pick it apart and stuff. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to it.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate. 4-1. What a performance today. I mean, what a performance. I've got to be honest with you. On the way to the game, when I saw that lineup, probably like a lot of West Ham fans, I was thinking to myself, why? Why are we starting with some of those players again? You know, like we all know best, right? Gary and I have numerous conversations about this, as I know you do as well, about what our predicted lineup should be, what players should be playing in what positions. And then suddenly you see Soucek in there again, you know, Antonio. Not that I've got a problem with some of these players, by the way, but I do have preferences with other players, obviously starting the games. So I'm thinking to myself, not the lineup that I would have wanted, right? However, like, you've got to give credit where it's due because Lopetegui, yeah, he did a great job today, didn't he? And I think it's not just with his lineup. I think it was with his in-game, you know, substitutions that he made. His in-game tactics were spot on today. I genuinely cannot fault him, and I can't fault a single player. I thought we were fantastic from front to back, back to front. We just performed brilliant today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to a man, it's one of those weeks where at worst you're giving everyone a 7, and the players that excelled get a lot more of that. I think there's a couple of things I really liked about today. So one factor was the fact that some of the players that do often get a lot of criticism with Soucek and Antonio, to pick two, for example, had a really, really strong games today. I think Soucek had one of the best games I've seen him play in a long time. He did the basics things very well in terms of being able to keep the ball and possession and moving things ticking over. But he also added a little industry to it as well, where he was working hard, etc. So he was really good. And Antonio, listen, he had a really, really good game. I think what was good as well is like the goals basically lifted everyone. It gave everyone confidence today.
I think Brian's frozen there for a second.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah, I can't remember the last time we've seen our front four all score in a game, basically, and I really loved that today as well. Really loved that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me that has got to be one of the major pluses, right? Because if you look on the face of it, you know, definitely Kudus needed a goal, 100%, first goal of the season. He was crying out for a goal, and I think that should do his confidence the world of good. In addition to that, Bowen, I think he needed a goal, definitely. Obviously, dropped from the England squad this week. Hasn't really been at the levels that we're used to, in fairness to him. And, you know, equally, Mikel Antonio, as you said, I thought he was fantastic today, mate. I mean, he was bullying those defenders. You know, he got that extra yard of pace back again today. He was chasing the ball down constantly when he had a fantastic game. Could have scored a couple of goals, as could have Kudus as well, right? I mean, he could have scored a hat-trick, to be fair. And then obviously icing on the cake is Paqueta to get a goal. So you're talking, as you say, the front four to all score, I thought was just, I don't think you could have asked for anything more from today, aside from conceding that goal, which we'll go on to in a moment. But aside from that, I thought it was, it was massive. It was massive for them to all score. My only kind of concern, it's not a concern, but my only frustration would be we've now got the international break, and after a win, you just want to play your next game, don't you? So we could just go into Spurs with a bit of confidence, which we still can, but just that momentum, do you know what I mean? Just carry it into the next game would be fantastic.
It's always the way of international break, isn't it? It's one of those things where if you win, you kind of want to keep that momentum and go into the next game without the international break. But if you lose, you got to do that horrible couple of weeks of having that defeat on your mind. And today was a statement, I feel, and it was one of those games whereby, you know, the manager was under big pressure. I feel if it wasn't anything other than a win and on the back of that, a good performance as well, questions would be asked like massively. So I felt that the result and the performance helped as well. It wasn't Ipswich's best day today, but they had spells, particularly in the first half, or the first, I would say, you know, the first 10, 15 minutes. They had, like, you know, they're neat and tidy on the ball. They're a really good side. But I felt that our players had confidence. I felt Antonio felt, I've got the beating of this back four here. Do you know what I mean? And I felt that our players felt comfortable in possession and felt that they had the, you know, the better players and better style and technically equipped. So I felt that it was one that we needed today. It was so important because the games we got coming up are really big games. Tottenham with the London as being a London derby, but you're kind of looking at teams who are all looking to be challenging for European places, which realistically should be our ambition. But I think to a man today, there's sort of like there's lots of individual stories today for me, and I feel starting from the back, Todibo had a good game. I think, you know, for the first maybe 3 minutes, I think Delap gave him a few sort of body checks that made him think to himself, oh, I'm going to be in for a game here. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think he is someone that is still getting to grips with the pace and the physicality of the Premier League. So therefore, I've got no regrets that, you know, the manager has sort of eased him in, because he obviously wasn't right. And we saw that when he made his debut against Bournemouth. But after those first couple of minutes, I think he was outstanding today. You know, his tenacity, his ball distribution was very good. Seemed to be communicating well with Kilman as well. It wasn't like the perfect performance, but you could see, considering he hasn't had that much game time, I'm hoping that centre-back partnership will basically be our main partnership going forward.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you, actually. I for me, and I was saying to my son, I thought Todibo for me was my man of the match. I thought he was absolutely fantastic today. That's the player that we thought we were signing, right? You know, that level of performance, it was just brilliant. I thought, you know, in terms of, you're right, in the first few minutes, he did have a few little tussles with Delap. I did notice that, but he came out and he won those battles, to be fair to him. After that, I thought he was absolutely flawless. I don't think he made a single mistake. I genuinely don't. So for me, that absolutely has to be our centre-back pairing, as does Aaron Wan-Bissaka at right back, and obviously Emerson at left back. I thought our back four today were really good. Really good. You know, and if you talk, let's go back to the beginning of the game, right? I couldn't believe it. I mean, for us to score in the first minute of the game, it's usually us conceding first, right? So to score in that first minute was just, yeah, it was like kind of, what's just happened here? You know, I can't believe we just scored a goal. I was really quite stunned by it, but we came, you know, out of the traps. We were really up for it. And it was great to see, really good to see. I was like, bloody hell, we scored. Great bit of, great assist from Jared Bowen. Lovely mistake from Calvin Phillips as well. I've got to give him a bit of credit for that. I think he's now justified the loan fee that we paid for him last season, isn't he? Really? Because he made he made 2 errors today. Right, we'll come on to his second error as well in a moment. So with regards to the first goal, great mistake by Calvin Phillips, lovely little crossing by Bowen, and really nice, neat finish by Mickey Antonio as well. Right, so yeah, fantastic. And then the second goal, of course, just like West Ham, 6-7 minutes in, I think it was. I can't remember the exact time of the goal. Just thinking, no, why are we conceding so soon, right? And looking at that goal, because I sit in the Bobby Moore, right, and I'm just trying to, from what I saw of it, and I've genuinely not seen the highlights back at all, but corner comes in. I believe it was one of the Ipswich Town players that won the ball. It went back to the far post where Delap had the ball, obviously. But for me, it looked as though Paqueta just got spun a bit too easy for my liking. I don't know if I'm being unfair, because again, I'll need to watch the highlights back, right? I just haven't had time since I got back from the game. It did look like he got spun a little bit too easily. And obviously Areola shouldn't get beat shouldn't get beaten at his near post like that, in my opinion. It just seemed a little bit of an easy goal, too easy for me. What did you make of that goal?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, yeah, Paqueta perhaps could have been a little bit tighter to his man, but it wasn't as bad. I actually think it was a really good goal by Delap. But as you said, Areola should not have been conceded that goal. He got a hand to it, which took the pace off it, and and if anything, he was beaten by the pace. But yeah, Areola didn't have his best game today, but he did have some big moments. He made some crucial saves. But his ball distribution wasn't the best. But that first goal, it just came at a time as well where it kind of sucked the air out of us. But it was like, you know what, come on, let's go 1-1, start the game again. But yeah, with our first goal, as you said as well, I think it was Antonio as well who basically muscled off. I think just sort of got the ball off Phillips. Phillips was sort of dilly-dallying, and then he played it back to Soucek, I think, who then played it out. To Bowen. What I liked about that goal as well is Bowen he basically used Wan-Bissaka as a decoy, didn't he? Because, you know, Wan-Bissaka was coming on the overlap, and he could have, the easier ball would have been to play him out for then Wan-Bissaka to cross it. But that little decoy just made their back four shuffle across a little bit, and he just done that cute little pass into Antonio, which was a great finish. But at 1-1, it was kind of a thing where, all right, let's start again, because it just happened so early in the game, and it kind of had that basketball feel because Ipswich were quite comfortable knocking the ball around in possession. One thing I noticed as well, and you know, I like to study the game, innit, Chris? But doing all this stuff, we all kind of have like different views and opinions in terms of what we see. And one thing I've kind of been trying to do and really struggled to do is seek what our identity is, particularly formations and systems, etc. But today, how I kind of viewed it, particularly out of possession, we sort of lined up in a 4-1-4-1. So it looked to me that clearly Rodriguez was clearly the anchor in front of the back four, and there seemed to be a bit of distance in front where you kind of had Soucek and Paqueta in front, and obviously Kudus and Bowen out wide. But then in possession, that became sort of more like a conventional 4-3-3, where you had like Soucek and Paqueta basically a little bit further back. And I was seeing that sort of transition in possession, out of possession through the game. And one of the things as well that we tend to do, we keep the ball. It's kind of like Pellegrini era, where we're sort of just knocking the ball around at the back. We're not really doing anything. But we're kind of like, the players are basically waiting for that extra spare man to move the opposition players around. So there's an out ball. And it seems like one of the things that the manager has been doing is applying sort of like a more direct type of play, where he's doing sort of kind of long ball styles that's bypassing our midfield play a little bit straight over. That seems to be something he's doing consistently. But other than that, it's kind of been hard for me to kind of seek anything that has been consistently happening over a period of games. But today I kind of saw it. I saw it a little bit. I think it worked well against the way how Ipswich were set up. Basically, it kind of complemented the way they play complemented what we were trying to do.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I must admit, I'm still a little bit confused about the style. You know, our style that we're trying to implement, or Lopetegui's style he's trying to implement. I'm still not entirely sure what he's trying to do. Obviously, we do have a very high back line, typically week after week. But aside from today, because I think we did press well from the front, we typically don't press very well from the front. We've had that high back line, and to me, that doesn't make sense. If you're going to play a high back line, you need to be pressing from the front, right? You have to be doing that. Today, we were doing that, which was really good to see, actually. But I don't think our back line was as far forward as it typically is. But to me, it did feel quite well balanced today, the team. You know, and you're quite right. I mean, to your point, when you say the way we played, you know, kind of, or the team that we had, the tactics we had worked well against Ipswich. Yeah, absolutely did. But I think some of those players, and certainly that formation, won't work against some of the bigger and better teams. That's the reality of it. But I think, again, give Lopetegui some credit here. He got the right team. Okay, he did. He got the right team. He got the right tactics to win that game today. And do you know, I've got to just bring up some of these comments. I'm reading these down the side here, right? Iron Bubbles is a great result, but performance is shit. I mean, honestly, I couldn't disagree with you more. I really couldn't. I thought it was a great performance today from West Ham. I'm not sure what game people are watching sometimes when they make comments like this. And another one here from Iron Bubbles again. I mean, this is seriously negative, right? Don't be fooled. Ipswich was shite. They gave us chance after chance. Do you know what? Let's put it into perspective here, right? Ipswich played Villa the other week, right? Champions League team that we struggled against and we lost against. They got a 2-2 draw and they could have nicked it as well. They played very, very well against them, right? They've had a number of draws this season. I think they drew against Fulham. Did they draw against Fulham as well? I can't remember now. I think there were 3 draws and a couple of losses. But they only narrowly lost to Liverpool, and the only team that they got convincingly beaten by was City, I believe.
That's right.
Ipswich, yes, they didn't play well today, but why can't we take some credit, or Lopetegui or our team take credit for the way we played? We made them play crap today. That's the way I kind of look at it, right? So I don't think that's a fair assessment to say that Ipswich are shite. I don't think they are shite. And personally, I don't think they're going to get relegated. I don't. I know a lot of people might disagree with me on that, but I think they've got some good players. I think they've got a fantastic manager. I like their style of play. Maybe that is a little bit dangerous, the way they play with the quality of players that they have. But, over the course of the season, and particularly when they're playing at home at Portman Road, I think that's going to be a good ground. That's going to be a place where they will accumulate a decent number of points.
Yeah, Chris, you know what? Everything you said there, I couldn't agree with you more. I think Iron Bubbles, look, let's put it this way, playing devil's advocate, because I equally feel that the performance was decent today. We got to look at it like this. Our team, basically, with what has been served up over the last few weeks, or even from the beginning of the season, hasn't been to the level that any of us or any of them want it to be. So today was more about getting the result. We did it in a good way. And I think based on the players that scored as well, it just gave everyone confidence. And I felt the timing of everything, getting that first goal in the time frame we did, the players that contributed or got a goal, it lifted them. Antonio scoring, I felt that elevated his performance. Again, same with Kudus, it was exactly the same, because there have been times during the course of this season where he's probably trying a bit too hard, and then that's kind of like impacting his overall output. Whereas today I felt he tried to do the simple things more, in terms of give the ball to Emerson or pass inside, as opposed to trying to beat 2 or 3 men. But you could see when it came to shooting opportunities, he still had that element of trying hard. So scoring just kind of got that thing out of his system. Do you know what I mean? So I just felt the win was the most important thing today. So regardless whether you felt Ipswich played good, bad, anything in between, we would all been moaning if we didn't get the result. So to get the result, and in the fashion we did, we have to kind of basically give props for that all round.
Yeah, totally agree with you. For me, and I said this to Gal during the week, it wasn't just about getting the win. I think we needed that performance. We just needed it. And I think we definitely got that today. I can't fault it. I really can't. And again, going back to his in-game management, the substitutions he made at certain times, I thought were just absolutely perfect. Great to see Kilman get some minutes as well at the end of the game. I think it was perfect. Actually, I've got to say, I think his substitutions were absolutely perfect. So going back to the game, obviously at that point it was 1-1. Second goal, literally just on the brink of half time. Although I will say, after Ipswich equalised, I'd say certainly probably for the first 25, 30 minutes, maybe max, it was a pretty even game, right? And this is sometimes when you look at the score, upon reflection from my memories, from what I saw, I felt that it was pretty even at that stage. It really was. And then when Kudus got that goal, obviously a massive game changer, right? And then I think that just gave us that sort of momentum and impetus coming into the second half to start playing even better. And as you say, built the confidence up a little bit more. With regards to Kudus, it's funny because I think when he started the game, I didn't think he was particularly great for the first 10, 15 minutes, because conversely, based on what you just said, he was trying to run with the ball a little bit too much, and he lost it on a couple of occasions. But then after that period of time, he then started passing the ball a little bit more, which was good to see, because I must admit, and I had this debate quite a lot about Kudus, because I think one of the reasons why he is trying to take the ball on and take on the world is because he's probably frustrated, right? This is the thing. We've not been attacking much. He hasn't scored any goals. We haven't really had a huge amount of creativity up front. And I think certain games, he's probably thinking to himself, do you know what? I'm going to take this game by the scruff of the neck and I'm going to do it myself if it's not happening around me. So I think a lot of that is born out of sheer frustration. But that's why now, obviously, scoring 4 today, having a much more expansive, attacking, creative game, I personally think this will kind of bode well moving forward. And hopefully now we're going to see the players playing more as a cohesive unit, playing more as a team. I don't know what you think about that, but I'm hoping that's going to be the situation.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you can sort of say the same with Bowen as well. So with Kudus, I think naturally our team set up where we play sort of like, if you look at it, if we were to do, say, like the team in stages, so low block, mid block, and all out attack, if we were to label it like that, yeah, we tend to set up naturally in sort of like a mid-level team block level. So where the back line's a little bit squeezed up, so they're a bit further forward, but the midfield and the attackers are kind of like all players behind the ball when we're not in possession. So when we're in possession, sometimes it takes the attacking players longer to kind of support whoever's holding up the ball, whether the ball's in the middle or out wide. So when you got someone like Kudus now who gets the ball and his automatic default is to go forward, and he's not seeing anyone in line or in front of him. So then, as you said, frustration, he wants the ball carry. Bowen as well is someone who likes to carry the ball and sometimes can make the wrong decisions just based on the fact that players are maybe not in the position that they should be. And you can tell, particularly with the spat that happened last week, allegedly, with Lopetegui and Kudus. It's a thing where Lopetegui probably wants his players to basically be a team, and he's probably thinking, as what you're saying, Mohamed Kudus is just trying to do things as an individual as opposed to a team. And I felt today he did do that in spells, but I felt he was a bit more cohesive with the team than he normally is. But you're right, it's pure frustration.
Yeah. I think it is, but yeah, you're definitely right. For me, he grew into the game. He was becoming more of a team player in that game as well. And yeah, look, if you look at that goal that Kudus scored, was it? I think it was Emerson, right? He pinged the cross in. Antonio, I think he proper bullet header that was, wasn't it? I think he smashed cracked the bar in half. And then obviously Kudus tucked that in. Did you hear? I don't know if you would have heard this at home, but I'm pretty sure that they said it was Antonio's goal. And then literally straight after they said, but it was funny the way the announcer went. It was like, yeah, goal by Mikel Antonio. And then it wasn't like, I don't remember him saying it's a correction. It was Mohamed Kudus. But it was like, goal for Mikel Antonio, goal for Mohamed Kudus. I'm like, what's going on here?
He tried to style it out. Yeah. He was all like standing up, clapping. All of us around him, we were like, huh? And then he was like, oh yeah, but expertly tapped in by Mohamed Kudus or something like that, and it just didn't make sense. But when he said that, I was like looking at the players as they were trotting back and kind of looking at Mohamed Kudus, who was kind of like thinking, what's going on here? But it did look like Antonio's goal, kind of smashed under the bar and stuff. But obviously the referees have got the buzzer in it when the ball crosses the line in it, so it obviously didn't. So
Brian, you there?
Disappeared again and back again.
Yeah. I keep thinking you're doing the mannequin challenge or something. You're doing it very well.
So no, it was definitely good to see him get that goal, man, and this is a big confidence relief for him.
Yeah, it definitely was. So we go into the second half. Next goal, Jarrod Bowen. I love this goal because this is a typical Jarrod Bowen goal, right? When he cuts inside on his left peg, bottom corner, really tidy finish. But the thing that made me laugh so much about that goal, and bringing back up our good friend Calvin Phillips, who again I think we can also thank for his involvement in that particular goal. Because I'm sorry, I mean, I'm going to be frustrated if I'm an Ipswich fan and I'm watching that goal back, because Calvin Phillips knows Jarrod Bowen. He knows he's a left-footed player, right?
Exactly.
And he just lets him come in on his left foot and take that shot. What's he thinking? I mean, honestly, it made me laugh so much. And obviously, at the time, I wasn't thinking too much about it. I was like, that's Calvin Phillips. He's just got absolutely done there by Bowen. He was awful today, wasn't he? He was crap, Calvin Phillips. And I'll tell you something, I'm so glad that we didn't sign him. We didn't have the option, that we weren't basically obliged to buy him at the end of the season, because I think it clearly shows. And I've had this conversation again numerous times, and I'm sure you have as well about Calvin, but I've only really ever seen him have one good season in the Premier League, and that was with Leeds. He didn't do it with Man City because he played sparingly. And then he played in an England team where effectively he was playing slightly more advanced than Declan Rice. So he didn't necessarily come under a great deal of scrutiny, particularly when you've got attacking players on him, right? Yeah. But how did you see that goal? What's your thoughts around Calvin Phillips and how he's played so far, since he signed for Ipswich?
Do you know what the joke is, right? Like you, I haven't had a chance to watch stuff back, so I didn't even know that it was Calvin Phillips that was marking Bowen for that goal. But the thing is, what made me laugh is that as West Ham fans, we know that's what Bowen's going to do. Like, we saw it happen, and you saw he's just going to square in, he's going to cut. So I just thought, how did they let him do that? So to for now to hear you say it was Calvin Phillips, that's just dreadful. I think today, yeah, he didn't have the best of games, and from the mistake in the first half, also he was just a little bit lackluster. I don't think he didn't do anything like that kind of impacted the game for them. And he also got substituted off, right, in the second half. So towards a rapturous chorus of boos from the home fans. But in some ways, it's kind of a shame to see someone's career sort of just nosedived in the way it has, because he's everything, form, reputation's just fallen off a cliff since he made that move to City, which he, on reflection, is probably the worst thing he ever did.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And look, I mean, no one wants to see a player do badly unless they're playing against West Ham, right? I was gutted and I was really disappointed that he didn't do well for us. I didn't want him. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't really understand why we tried to sign him in the first place. Why we did sign him, it just didn't make sense to me, because we seem to be well catered for in the midfield area. Didn't really get that. And so, yeah, it's a real shame. But like I say, to do that against West Ham, I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. It was a good day for Calvin Phillips. It's his best game for West Ham so far, isn't it, really?
Oh.
And then we got the magnificent Lucas Paqueta. I got to right. He obviously scores the fourth goal. I've got to ask you, Brian, because I've not spoken to you about Paqueta specifically this season. I know we've had conversations about Antonio. I know you love Antonio. I know you think sometimes it's a little bit misunderstood. I remember from previous conversations we've had. Paqueta, what do you make of him this season so far? What's your thoughts on him?
Hasn't had a good season at all so far. I think he's been very slow at the traps, but I equally feel that pretty much everyone has been slow at the traps. Hasn't been himself. I think, putting it into perspective, he's obviously got a lot on his plate. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. The whole the allegations with that, and how that we don't know basically how that may or may not be impacting his form, playing in a slightly different position than he did last season as well. He's not having that cohesion that he had throughout most of the season on the left-hand side with Emerson. So he's played in a couple of positions this season where he's been more deep line and also as a number 10. I'm not a fan of him as a number 10 personally. I know a lot of people think that's where he should play and is his preferred position, but I don't think he pulls up any trees when he plays in that 10 position for me. And I feel that there are a few players that potentially are causing a problem, and he is one of them. And to put context in it, look, Paqueta is gifted and he's arguably one of our, top 3 players, top 2, top 1. Everyone's got their opinions, but his ability is better than pretty much most of the squad, right? So I think sometimes what we do, we're playing players based on their quality and reputation, as opposed to maybe playing the best team, what's the best fit, because you don't need to play all of the players. I mean, there's many calls to play like Summerville and all that, and fit him in along with all of our other attacking players, which looks great on paper, but it might not necessarily be the best fit, and also doesn't provide us with much options off the bench. So I think personally for me, Paqueta just hasn't had a good season so far. I actually, controversially, I would probably want to play him on the left, which a lot of people will scream at. But I feel him playing on the left almost having a little bit of free role where he can come inside and maybe interchange with maybe someone else could actually cause some serious damage, I feel, and I think he would be comfortable with that. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on him so far.
Yeah, do you know, I was going to ask you what position you think he's best in, and I don't disagree with you, because I think he's very effective on the left-hand side, you know, particularly when he has that relationship with Emerson on the left. You know, they definitely work very well together. That's kind of clearly obvious to see. I think with him playing in the 10, we all live in the hope that he still has that, you know, moment where he plays that, you know, kind of Hollywood ball, whatever you want to call it, right? Because he's got the ability to do that, to unlock defenses. But there's nothing to stop him doing that if he cuts inside. Okay, and he can still do that. So I'd agree with you. I do like Paqueta on the left-hand side. I didn't like him on the left-hand side under Moyes, but I think maybe playing on the left-hand side, you know, under Lopetegui, he may be even a bit more attack-minded than he was under Moyes. I felt sometimes he was a little bit restricted in terms of what he could do under Moyes, but hopefully, if he does play there, again, we can get a bit more out of him. But it's frustrating because if you play Paqueta on the left-hand side, automatically you're thinking, well, where does Summerville go, right? Because I don't know your thoughts on him, but I want him to play. You know, he's a naturally wide player. He's our only naturally wide left-sided winger that we've got, even though he's right-footed. I do want to see him in the team, mate. I don't know. What do you think about Summerville? I mean, because obviously if you've got Paqueta playing on the left-hand side, which presumably, are you saying he should start over Summerville?
Yeah. I don't feel Summerville can take any of those players' place at this moment in time. To put that into context, I'm a big Summerville fan, and I have been one of those fans as well that has been calling for him. But on the other side of it as well, I think that he will get his chance, and we know that the manager likes to make substitutions, and I think he is someone that is probably will have more impact coming into games with a point to prove than starting and coming off. I equally feel as well there have been games that he's played this season where he's actually had big chances to score or do something that's influenced the game that would have put him in a position that the manager couldn't ignore and then maybe start him. And he just hasn't taken those opportunities yet. But he is a dangerous player, and someone that is going to be really good for us and give us not only natural width, but much needed pace. We look like an old team sometimes. And when it comes to pressing, I feel we lack legs. So Bowen's good at pressing from the front. Bowen ain't the quickest, but he's got great acceleration. So he looks fast. But then over a sustained period, he's not like quick, but he's got good acceleration. So Summerville, who has got good pace, and even Guilherme's got fantastic pace. He's probably the quickest in the side, but we've yet to see that. I think he would bring it, but I just think at this moment in time, he's not going to shift any of those players out for me. It's a good point here by Vinny. He's saying about, you know, he's quite slight, Summerville, isn't he? So he does need to bulk up. But on the flip side of that as well, the advantage of being slight is you're always going to get like knocked, and therefore, depending on the referee, that could get your side free kicks.
Yeah, no, I agree with you about Summerville as well, because again, I've had this conversation multiple times. My concern with him is because he's so small, and if you see him, you know, close up, you can see actually how small he is. I don't know how tall he is, but he's a small guy, right? But you know, one thing I will say is that I do, and I have seen like certainly an improvement in him over the games I have seen, you know, more recently, because I think there was a couple of games, and I remember when we played City and he was up against Kyle Walker at one particular moment, and Kyle Walker gave him a bit of a shove, and he went flying about 5, 6, 7 yards. Right? I was like, Jesus, this guy is going to get knocked around. I know it's Kyle Walker, so that's going to be a tough test, but that made me think straight away, I thought, is he strong enough physically to deal with the Premier League? But I'll tell you, in recent games, I think he's shown that he can be quite physical and he can give as good as he gets, right? I think he's realised that to step up from the Championship to the Premier League, he's going to need to be a bit more physical. So he's using his body a bit more, and I've noticed that. And when I went to go and see, I don't like talking about this game too much, but when I went up to Anfield the other week to see West Ham play Liverpool, he actually had a good game, in my opinion. You know, he did all right. And there were quite a few occasions when he was being very physical on that ball. So that was good to see. So I do think, and I don't think that he's going to be like a Ben Rama. Let's put it that way. I think that physically he'll be able to handle his own a bit better than Ben Rama. I think for me, what we do want to see with him is that end product. But again, he's not had enough game time for us to really warrant and have maybe an opinion on him to say whether or not he's good or bad. I think he's looking very good, and I think he's a real prospect for us. I do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and actually, for me, I'm actually really patient with him. I think he's got everything. He's got all the credentials that you need, and he's got age on his side as well. And I think he's going to be a really, really influential player. So I have no doubt he'll get his opportunity, and I have no doubt that he'll take his opportunity. I think what I'm learning, particularly with Lopetegui, is that this season is going to be like. It's going to be a slow burner. There's going to be a lot of knockbacks before we start chipping away. But I'm hoping as the season matures and the players play more together and we start to see a bit of consistency with the team lineup. I think today was, what was it? It was pretty much the same lineup as the last game, which is good. We want to start to see some continuity. And I think when we get into that type of phase, we hopefully will then start to see a bit of a pattern and then start to see some of the manager stuff come off. And as I said, Summerville's he might play himself into the team, whether that be through coming on and getting a brace or due to injury. I think he's someone at the moment I feel that is a good impact player. And as I said, a lot of people want to bring him in, but they don't want to take out any of the other attacking players. And I don't think that's a good idea. I don't feel playing your Kudus, your Paquetas, your Bowen and Summerville, I don't think that's the best balance for the team. I don't think that's the best team. It's the best team on paper in terms of names and it looks great. But I think for us, what we need to do is see what players make the team function well. And you know what? This is kind of why the players like Soucek and Antonio, they get stick, but all the managers that come in pick them. It's because I think a lot of the work that they do off the ball is basically making some of our other creative players look good. They're covering the ground, they're doing mileage, they're doing stuff, whether it's player working hard in the middle or player going out wide or whatever. Like there's things that those two players particularly do that has made some of our creative players look better, in my opinion. So it becomes about the team functionality as opposed to individual performances.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that, right? I mean, Soucek does get a really tough time. I mean, he's a much maligned player for West Ham. He's always been given stick. But that being said, as you said, he's always been being picked. All right, okay, two managers, but he's getting game time. There's got to be a reason for that. Has to be a reason for that. We all know, areas where he's not particularly strong. Obviously his passing ability sometimes, leaves a lot to be answered for. That does frustrate the hell out of me. But actually, with regards to today, I think he had a really good game today, actually, Soucek. Again, you've got to give credit where it's due. He does get a lot of stick. But one thing you can guarantee with Soucek, and this is not necessarily a fault of his own, because I think sometimes it's the positions that he's been asked to play in. And perhaps, whatever our tactics are for particular games makes him look bad. But I don't think it's, he's not purposely going out there. He always gives it 110%, Soucek. He does.
Yeah.
To go, you only have to look at the state of his face, poor fella. He's got cuts and bruises and scars all over him, right? Because he puts his head in where it hurts, and he does have the ability to pop up and score crucial goals for us, which he's done so many times over the years. So, for me, I'm not a big Soucek fan, but I respect what he's done for West Ham, and I respect the fact, and I appreciate the fact that he's still in and around the squad in the first team because he still has something to offer us.
Yeah, completely agree, and I'm exactly the same. I've got a lot of respect for him. If I was the manager and I was picking a team, he probably wouldn't be in my starting lineup, and the philosophy of the football and the style of football I would like to play, he definitely wouldn't fit into that mold. However, like you say, basically he's getting played, and I feel this season particularly, we have to give credit where credit's due, because he's actually been one of the most effective players for the team based on his output, whether he's playing in a good position or a negative position. And again, yeah, this season is crazy because it's due to the tactical setup that Lopetegui's doing, which has not really made sense to us in some games, particularly when he's played him in a number 10 position. Because there's pros and cons to that. Because on one hand, you could say it's almost like Fellaini style, right? He's using his physical impact to impact both boxes, and the other side of it as well. Well, with that same point, basically, is that if you play him in that advanced position, he doesn't necessarily need to be on the ball. So therefore, he's less likely to lose possession, basically. But it means the deficit of that is the team's almost playing with a man less. And I think because of how it looks with Soucek, it's a thing where, yeah, us as fans, including myself, feel sometimes, you know what I mean, we're playing with, we're just playing with one man less. But no one will question no one will question his work rate or his physical contribution. I mean, the guy doesn't stop running and stuff. But yeah, for this season, I think he has made a good contribution, and I like him as a person. He definitely wouldn't make my starting lineup in the way I would like to play.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's just look at some of the comments actually, because I've been putting a few of the chats up, so keep putting those comments in. Yeah, look, Soucek is brilliant. Always works his socks off. He does. He always does. For me, I mean, in terms of his work rate, it's right up there. You know, every single week for all of our players. Just trying to look at some of the other comments we got here. Thank you, Darren. Yeah, appreciate if everyone likes it. Gary's not here tonight. No, Gary's away tonight. He's had a, you know, I was saying to Brian beforehand, actually. So Gary's obviously, he goes to every single game week in, week out. He wasn't there today and we won. So I wonder whether Gary shouldn't bother turning up for the next game we have at home. We've got at home next. We've got Man United at home next, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no Gary tonight. Unfortunately, we do have Brian. What's we got here? Antonio can't bully top centre backs. I don't know. Do you know? I don't know if I actually agree with that. I think the thing with Antonio for me is that, and I don't know what you think about this, Brian. For me, he's like a 60-minute player at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get much more out of him over 60 minutes, 65 minutes, because he runs on empty, doesn't he? Now he just doesn't have. I don't think he has that endurance anymore like he used to. But you could see, you know, in the first half today, he was really working his socks off, like I said previously. You know, you could see him running the channels, working the two centre halves. He had a really good game. I do think he can bully top centre backs. I think he's proven it before. I just do. Due to his physicality, I think he can always do that. He'll give anyone a game.
Yeah, my thing with Antonio, I've always felt like the frustration side with Antonio, he will be the first to admit that he's not technically gifted player, and he'll tell you he doesn't have the best first touch.
He had a moment today. He had a moment. Sorry to interject there, Brian. Did you see the moment today? Oh my God. I don't know what happened there. He outskilled himself, didn't he? I was like, how did he do that? Honestly, even the defender didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what he was doing. It was brilliant, wasn't it? That was just so typical Antonio, wasn't it?
Like that. Yeah, exactly. That, if anyone like who doesn't know Antonio and you kind of tell them about him, that moment would have typified literally Antonio in a nutshell. But the things for me, so that's one thing, is his technical ability lets him down. But also in terms of the physicality side, I think he looks for the physical battle too much. I feel so he'll get into little tussles that he doesn't need to and then go over. He's such a big bloke. So when he's trying to win free kicks, it just looks really stupid that he's just falling over because it's hard for a referee to buy it. So I just think if he was a bit more cuter in his approach and not necessarily look for physical battles, but just sort of strong arm someone in moments that are not as obvious, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But yeah, no, he was fantastic today, right? Got to ask you, we're talking about the midfield. Okay, we've spoken about Soucek. Guido Rodriguez. Okay, he divides opinion with a lot of people. My personal opinion on him today is that he kind of unassumingly got on with his job today. You know, he was effective in the sense of his ability to spray a pass. For me, is right up there with any of our midfielders in the team, right? You could see that today in terms of how he sprays the diagonals. He's got one hell of a range of passing. My only concern with him, and all West Ham fans know this, is his lack of pace, which is clearly evident to see in every single game that I've seen him play this season. There's certain games where he'll be effective. Maybe that could be when he's not necessarily playing against, pacey midfielders or attackers that are coming up against him. So I actually think today worked in his favour because he didn't really have that pace around him, didn't he? I didn't really see Hutchison giving him too much of a tough time in the park. I think in the first 15, 20 minutes, he played quite well. But other than that, I thought Rodriguez was pretty neat and tidy. But what's your opinions on Rodriguez so far? Bearing in mind, and not just factoring in today, but factoring in the games that he's played for us this season. What's your opinion, Brian?
You've kind of summed it up in effect. I think he is a neat and tidy player. He is good technically on the ball, and I think he does the basic things very well. Does have an eye for a pass, short and long. I think there's two things with him, and they're both pace related. And he's not blessed with pace, but in addition to that, the pace of the league is different for him. It's very quick. So therefore, if he is playing in a position, or if he's playing against an opposition that do have quick players in the final third, he'll get found out, particularly if he's playing as the last anchor or in a double pivot. And I think he can play okay in a double pivot, depending on who plays alongside him. Because the problem I feel we have, if you play two players if you play a conventional 4-2-3-1, let's just say, and he was one of the two that were holding. If we play, say, Alvarez alongside him, Alvarez has the mindset to basically push forward because he's a player that naturally likes to press. So whether he's in possession or out possession, he naturally gets drawn to the ball, which therefore makes him vacate the area he should be in. And then if you're going to leave Rodriguez in that area, and then you've got three players coming at him, we're finished basically. So I think there are moments that he's had good games, and there have definitely been games where he's been found out. And today, seeing him basically playing as a single anchor in front of the back four, it did worry me a little bit. But I think, as you said, based on how the opposition played and how we played, it kind of worked today. It definitely worked today. So it was one of those games he was able to look okay.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, there's some people who are saying that Modric has no pace. I mean, whilst that is true, Modric also plays in a much more advanced, role than Rodriguez does. So again, it's not necessarily as important.
Not even that. I think if you're gonna use, say, like Modric, which is, to be fair, Mark, it is a good point. It's about who you're playing alongside. Like Modric is always he's playing alongside world-class players, so it's different. You can't really make that comparison.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I mean, because you get world-class players that have no pace, and there's a few comments in here, people saying that, right? Totally agree with you. If you can read the game, okay, then positioning. I mean, of course, that's a huge attribute to have. But I do think when you are playing in that position, you kind of do need a bit of pace, particularly if you've got pacey players in and amongst you, right? You have to have that. So, it really does depend. I mean, Bobby Moore, he wasn't the fastest. We really, I don't think we can compare Bobby Moore to the likes of Guido Rodriguez, right? I mean, with respect, Bobby Moore's Bobby Moore. I mean, he was a guy that could read the game 5 passes before anyone else could. But I like him. I do like him as a player. I think he does divide opinion. However, I think, again, it depends on the game, as we've said. Depends on the type of game. I think,
and the system as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would never have him playing as like a single anchor, playing just in front of the back four. That would scare the living daylights out of me. That just wouldn't work for me. So I think he does need to be paired with someone who's a bit more dynamic and robust, like Alvarez in the middle. That kind of makes more sense to me. But actually, and one thing I want to come on to actually is lineups, because we've obviously discussed the lineup today. Okay, in your opinion, okay, what would be your preferred lineup? Okay, and I know again this may vary from game to game, obviously depending upon who the opposition is. All right, but let's just say generically, what do you think is our best 11? And where would they play as well?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. So without giving it much thought, I'm just going to go for it, right? So back four, pretty much, back five speaks for itself, and it would be what it was today in terms of the goalkeeper and the back four that we had in today's game.
Yeah.
I'm going to bypass the midfield for the moment and go straight to the top, right? So striker wise, in terms of what we have available, I would actually play full crew as our number 9. I feel it allows us to have two styles of playing, direct and playing off him. The 3 players I'd have behind him, I'd have Bowen on the right, I'd have Kudus in 10, and I'd have Paqueta on the left. I think Kudus being in the 10 is like the perfect answer to the problem that we currently have with him being on the left and not being able to do the direct things that he's comfortable with doing when he's on the right. We saw in the second half today, when he did switch over onto the right, when Bowen went up top, there was almost like a nonchalant approach with him. There was a lot more confidence. He was like passing balls cross field and doing certain things where he felt a lot more comfortable. But I feel him playing in a 10 role gives him that ability to drive forward, also go left and right. And also he's used to playing in a 10 position. He played in 10, wide right, and false 9. So I think seeing him in sort of that position as well would allow us to press from the front better. So that would be my 3 behind full crew. Then if we were to say if we're calling it a 4-2-3-1 for argument's sake, that could be flexible 4-3-3 as well. So the 2 behind, then, if I was to do with those 3 behind the 1, I would have, and this is probably a bit attacking, I'd probably go with Alvarez and Soler. So I think what Soler can do, if he gets a run of games, we will get to see his qualities, because he is someone basically that equally has is good at reading the game, but he's also good in possession and out of possession. He is a wide right winger converted into a centre midfielder, basically. So he's someone that has the attacking mindset, but also has the nous and know-how in a central midfielder capacity. And I feel giving him a run of games, our ball possession in terms of getting the ball, turning and facing, and then hitting our front 3 or the 3 behind the 1 would be a lot more progressive. At the moment, he's come on and played in various positions, but he is someone I feel potentially will force his way into the starting lineup. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that would probably be my team.
Yeah, no, I can't fault the team. I think it's still a good. I got read this comment quickly. Brian needs to read bedtime stories. He has such a soothing voice. There you go. Is that true, Brian? Because I know you got a little one, right? Is that true? Does it work?
Yeah, well, listen, that is my job. I do put him to bed, man. So I do the bedtime stories. So
but going back to Soler, I agree with you. And also that lineup that you just mentioned, I think it's a solid team. I mean, it's a solid team. There's so many different kind of variations, and kind of so many different things you could do with that squad. But I do feel like Kudus playing in the 10. That's a question that a lot of people raise sometimes. Some people think, he should do it. Some people think, do you know what? Maybe he's not that type of player that should be playing just behind the striker, because maybe he's not necessarily as creative enough. Maybe he's a little bit too greedy. Is he really going to kind of, have the ability to get those kind of, eye of a needle passes into our strikers, like i.e. Füllkrug? That's debatable, it is. But then sometimes when you see what he did against, who was it? Leipzig? Who was the team he played last season? German team, when he ran from the halfway line and scored that goal. He's got the ability to do things like that. So I do think, and I know that he's played those positions, hasn't he, for Ajax? I think he's played those positions for his national team. I think he can play certainly in that kind of 10 role, and he can play on the right-hand side. I'm undecided for me what I think is his best position, in truth. I suppose if I'm pushed on it, I'd rather see Kudus on the right. But then the problem with having Kudus on the right, you've then got that dilemma of where the hell do you stick Jared Bowen? You're never going to drop him. You play him up front. Well, he's not really a striker, although he can do a job there. He's not really a striker. I have said on a few occasions, what about if he played just behind Fulcrook? Would that work? Truth is, I don't know. You know, I feel like sometimes I'm playing Championship Manager or Football Manager because you move all these players around, you think, yeah, that could work. I don't know, because again, is Bowen the type of creative player that could play in that 10 where he can start threading ball through? No, he's not. He's more of a clinical finisher, right? He wants to dribble with the ball, right? So I don't. It's really hard, but that is a bit of a dilemma with Kudus and Bowen, because we've got two right-hand sided players, which arguably probably their best positions is on the right-hand side, I believe. Yeah. Again, I don't. Maybe Kudus could play in the 10 better. I don't know. He's not really been given the opportunity to show it. So it is a tough one. And then again, when you talk about Lucas Paqueta on the left-hand side, there's also the argument that says, should he even be playing anyway, Brian? Because he's been really off form this season. I think Summerville will definitely get his time, and I would agree that I think over the season he'll probably start getting and making more appearances for West Ham on that left-hand side. I do wonder whether Lucas Paqueta will even be with us kind of post-January. You know, I do wonder, because with all of this stuff going on right now, I don't think his head's completely in the game, in truth. I don't. I've seen enough of him this season to have my concerns about this. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be as gutted as I thought I would be. I mean, before I'd be thinking, you know, we can't lose a player like Paqueta. I remember when Man City were after in the start of last season, and we were like, no, we don't want to lose him, don't want to lose him. But he's just not been the same player for us for the last 8 months now. He just hasn't, has he? So realistically, maybe Soler could be the option that could play. You know, maybe where in the 10, if hypothetically Paqueta gets the nod playing in the 10 role, maybe that could be Soler's role, because he has the ability to play in a number of different positions as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, what you're going to get with Soler is more functionality. So you might not get the flicks and tricks, but what you'll get is someone who can connect, bring a bit more cohesion from midfield to attack. What we don't have at the moment is any kind of fluidity or cohesion in the middle of the park. And therefore, we're only kind of seeing play in our defensive third, and then it bypasses the midfield and then goes up front. And if you look back at the Chelsea game, it's kind of a game where that area just got exposed completely. There was so much space. And what Chelsea have been doing really well this season is the three that play behind their striker. They're just all doing darting runs, like literally at the same time. They're just going bam, 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 and they're running, which is them allowing the player that's on the ball, it's giving them options, 4 options of where to pass. And that's something for us we don't necessarily do. I completely agree with Paqueta. I mean, look, on current form, he perhaps shouldn't be playing, but at the same time, I'd rather him start and bring him off than bring him on than when he's starting from the bench. I don't think he'll be as impactful, and I think he's a confidence player as well. So I always look at personnel when the team score or when we concede and what they do. And then he is always one of the first to go and congratulate players if they've scored, or, he does seem to bring morale. But a lot of the things, it's kind of like big club, small club mentality. And I think a lot of the things he does for us, if he went to Man City, Guardiola would not have it. He would not have some of the ill discipline or flicks and tricks or giving away the ball in certain areas. And that's what I mean. Some of that stuff infuriates me, like literally, because he has many a times put us in dangerous positions where he's given away the ball and then played injured. And then we've gone on to concede or something, you know what I mean, like that along those lines have happened. So he can be frustrating, but on the flip side of that, he also can be a genius. We do have a habit of having sort of a maverick every sort of 5-10 years.
It's so true. And I don't know if you saw this today in the game, but just before he got hooked, I don't know whether this was a reason, perhaps it's not, but a ball came flying across and he controlled it. He did that, that kind of control, that touch, like when he back pulls it, like. Yeah, and it's like, what? No, and then he lost it, didn't he? Straight after that, he lost it. Straight after that, I was like, why do you feel the need to do that? I mean, at the end of the day, it's not. It looks good. We've seen it before, but it's not actually impacting the game in any way, shape, or form. You could have controlled that normally. You're not in an area where you're going to influence or impact the game by doing that bit of skill. And then literally, lo and behold, he lost the ball, made himself look a bit of a twit. Let's be honest. and then he got substituted. I'm not saying that's the reason he got subbed, because I think it was the right time to take him off anyway. But yeah, he does do that, and it does frustrate me sometimes, because we know he's got fantastic ability, but he shows it at silly times sometimes, you know. Maybe it's good. Maybe you could look at it in a different way and say, actually, it's confidence, because we were doing well at that point with 4-1 up, and he does that bit of skill, whatever, right? But I'm not a massive fan of that. I've got to be honest with you. I'm really, really not. But I'll tell you what, Brian, let's look at the lineup today, and let's rate the players. I'm intrigued to get your opinions on this, right? So we can take turns on this one, right? So let's kick this off with Areola. We already spoke about him previously. First goal, yeah, I think he should have covered that near post a bit better, in my opinion. I know he hit it hard into the corner, but if you're a keeper, right, getting beaten at your near post is just, it's not acceptable, is it really? What do you think? How would you rate Areola today?
So I'm going to give Areola a 6 today. I think he was at fault, in my opinion, for the first goal. On first viewing, Paqueta probably could have done more, but I think he should have stopped it. The shot was hit with great velocity, and he got a hand to it, which even more makes me think he should have done better. In addition to that, his distribution was not the best today. Couple of balls went out of play. But on the flip side, he did make some brilliant saves today. He made 2 good saves and 1 special save, the header low down, which he kind of stopped dead, almost like Gordon Banks-esque in terms of how low he managed to get and get a hand to it. So, for that, it kind of notched him up. So I give him a 6.
Yeah, it looks like a few people in the chat are agreeing with you on that one as well. I would agree with you. I think he, for the reasons I've said, I'm not going to repeat. So let's look at Aaron Wan-Bissaka. For me, I thought he had a good game today. Can't fault him. I mean, you know, Wan-Bissaka for me is one of those players that every week he's going to give you a minimum of a 7 out of 10, right? Unless he makes a stupid mistake, but realistically, he doesn't. That's not his game, is it? I think the only times you could arguably say that he hasn't had a good game is when he's playing higher up the pitch, because we do like our fullbacks to be a bit too high up, in my opinion. Today they weren't as high up as they typically were, I don't think. So I thought he had a good game today, and for me, I'd give Wan-Bissaka, I'd say bare minimum 7. I don't know if that's being harsh, but I think definitely a 7, maybe even an 8.
I agree with that. I'll give him a 7. What I've learnt with Wan-Bissaka now, watching him at close quarters, is he's got good technical ability, hasn't he? Like in terms of his technical ability, he's really comfortable on the ball. He does check back a lot, so he'll run forward and then check back and turn inside. That can irritate me a little bit, but there was a bit in the second half where he hit that shot, didn't he? And he kept it low drive, and I thought, technique-wise is outstanding. So, I think he done good today in contributing. So 7 for me.
Yeah, it's a funny one, Wan-Bissaka, because I actually think, I mean, he's had some good games for us at right back, but I also think that he's played very well at left back as well. And I never would have thought I'd be saying that, you know, particularly from an attacking point of view as well. I mean, I think this is the thing, and I had this conversation with Gary as well, and he was saying the same thing. It's like when you play him at left back, if you're a fullback, you know, you're a right back, because he does get forward. You know, he has been playing almost as like a left-sided midfielder, maybe even a little bit further forward at times when he's making those darting runs. You don't know which way he's going, if he's going inside or outside, and that must be a bit of a nightmare for a right back, fullback to come up against a player like that. You know, he did a bit of skill in a game the other week where he took on a couple of players, got to the byline and pinged it in. I was like, bloody hell. You know, you never would have seen that Wan-Bissaka at Man United. He didn't even have that license to roam forward like that, did he? So, he's an interesting player, and I do think that he can do a job at, you know, in either position for me. He can do. He can do. So, whilst we're talking about left back, let's talk about Emerson. For me, I thought he had a good game today. I thought he was a bit better than what he has been more recently. He looked pretty solid. I don't think he had really any trouble at all, actually. I can't really think of any particular moments. Maybe you can correct me on this if you saw something. I thought he was pretty good today. So again, for me, I've got to give him a 7. What do you think? What do you think about Emerson's performance today?
Yeah, not really standout-ish. I guess he's a 6.57 for me. I think he did contribute to the goal, didn't he, in terms of
Ross for Antonio,
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He played a part in the build up to that. So probably just edges us. Yeah, you know what? 6.5 is actually a good rating, what that guy said. So I'm going to go 6.5 for me. But it was one of his better games because he has been one of the players this season whose form has dropped off significantly.
Yeah, it's funny that his form has dropped off, whilst also Paqueta's form has also dropped off, and those two play very well together typically, right? So they've both been off form. It's interesting. What about Max Kilman?
So he is definitely arguably been our best player this season overall. I think he didn't do anything wrong. I think when they got the equaliser, when Ipswich got the equaliser today, there was a moment they had a corner, and it was a big chance. It was a free header. They could have went 2-1 up, and I think that was his man, to be fair. So I'll probably give him a 7 as a result of that. Neat and tidy, no real mistakes, kind of solid as always, but I'll give him a 7.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what chance you're referring to there, because I think it was Greaves who had the header, and God knows how he missed that one. Yeah, it was their centre half. I don't know how he missed that one. I think it was easier to score it from where I saw, because I was behind the goal. But I'd agree with you. I think Kilman, he looked pretty tidy at the back today, but I think he's had better games. But he went bad. He was good, but I think he's had better games. I want to talk about Todibo for a second, right? His centre back partner. Absolutely loved his performance today. For me, there was a few standout performances. In all honesty, I think collectively we were great, but Todibo, I thought, brilliant performance. Loved it, absolutely loved it, and that's what we've been crying out to see from him. He cost us a lot of money, and I think today he justified he will cost us a lot of money, but I think today he justified the reasons why we want to bring him into the team, and I'm so glad that he's playing and he's performing like that, because you know what, we've been crying out for a set. Not just one, we've got 2 quality centre backs here that we signed this season. So again, it's going to take some time for them to get used to each other and have that partnership. But it looks really promising, doesn't it? And I think technically, really good player. I love the fact that he likes progressing with the ball, and I saw one particular moment today where he ran up the pitch and took on a few players. I was like, I like what I'm seeing here. He looks to me like a proper player, a proper centre back. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do in future games for West Ham. What did you think?
The performance he done today is the player we've been crying out for. I think with him and Kilman, what we're seeing in terms of those 2 players we haven't had for a number of years is 2 centre backs that are comfortable on the ball. Both have the ability to bring the ball out, ping it short, ping it long, which is fantastic. And it's about the game that we're in now, the way how the game's progressing. So I would basically give him an 8.5. I think he, as I said, the first 2 minutes, he had a couple of body checks that he had to take and think, right, I'm in for a game here. Everything else after that was pretty much flawless. And I think, he is just is someone that would get a lot of confidence from that game today.
Yeah. You got some fans in the chat here, Brian. Jim says he gives you an 11.
Thank you, Jim.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know if he wants you to play for West Ham, but he gives you an 11 anyway. Yeah, no, for me, he was my personal man of the match. I just thought he was excellent. Maybe I'm being slightly biased because I've been crying out for that performance, and been crying out to see him play, games for West Ham, and obviously he's done that now for a couple of games in a row. I was really happy with it. Really happy with him today. Let's talk about Rodriguez. Well, I know we already kind of alluded to him already. Spoke a bit about him. What would you rate him?
Yeah, I guess again, he's probably a 6.57. To be fair, with how the game was today, his particular area and position, he didn't need to do.
I think Brian's doing the mannequin challenge again, and while he's just.
And he's back.
Why should just be frosting there, Brian? I've got a 10, so I'm happy. Yeah, God, you were saying about Rodriguez. What did you say? 6? Was it 6.5? You would say?
Yeah, I would say 6.5. But I think everything what he did today was neat and tidy, and he had one of his better games again today.
Yeah, better than the last few games he's played for us. Let's be honest, right? I mean, he was been pretty poor the last couple of games. I mean, Gary and I were waxing lyrical about him at the start of the season. We loved him. The only downside to him was he's obviously lack of pace, which we all know. But yeah, he was back to. I'm not going to say he's best, but certainly I was seeing glimpses of the player that I thought we'd signed. You know, that passing ability and everything else. So I'd agree. I think it was a good game for him today. I'd say 6.5 is actually a very fair. I think that's a fair, fair sort of rating on him. What about Mr. Potato Salad himself, Thomas Soucek? You know, I call him the Potato Salad Terminator because he sounds like the Terminator. What do you give him today?
Do you know what? I think he had one of his best games all round. So he was unlucky not to get on the score sheet today. That was a moment that really frustrated me in real time because the players, like, they tried to play out from the back, didn't they? And we kind of squeezed them, turned over the ball. There was a moment where Paqueta probably could have shot and then he laid it off to Soucek. And then Soucek, went for the bottom left corner. I need to see it back. But his overall play was really good today. I'm going to give him an 8, I'm going to give him an 8. I think he was definitely one of 3 contenders for man in the match for me. So I'd give him an 8.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. I thought he was it was definitely one of his better performances, if not his best performance this season. Totally agree in that respect. I don't really think he put a foot wrong today. Actually, I don't. I can't even think of a single stray pass.
I have to look it up. Yeah.
There's usually a couple, isn't there, in a game with Soucek, but I don't think he did today. I thought he was pretty solid in the middle of the park. Yeah, he was unlucky not to score that goal. I've not seen it. Like I said, I've not seen the highlights back, but it was kind of frustrating because I'm at the other end and I'm watching like shoot. And then I think he had it off the line, didn't he? I think one of the defenders knocked it off the line.
That's right.
I don't know if he got his shot away quick enough. I don't know. I need to watch it back. But yeah, he had a good game today. So, 8. Would I give him an 8? Yeah. Do you know, sod it. I'll give him an 8 because he gets so much stick. I think he deserves to get an 8 based off the fact that, you know what, he did have a good game today. So yeah, let's give him an 8. I'm with you on that one. Look, there's some people here. We've got a 9 here.
Wow.
A bit of love for Soucek. People loving Soucek again, Good to see. Yeah, good to see. Okay. So who else have we got here? Lucas Paqueta.
I give him a 7. He got a goal, to be fair. He got a goal and he did do quite a few decent quarterback passes. And again, he was not bad in possession. However, he did give away the ball a couple of times. Probably could have done better for their first goal. And there was a couple of times they turned over the ball. So yeah, it wasn't vintage Paqueta and it wasn't terrible Paqueta. It was kind of like, a 7 for me. And that's based on his goal. Because he got a goal, I'll give him a 7.
Yeah, did you see that moment where he went down in the first? Was it the first half? I think it was. Yeah. I could hear him scream from where I was sitting. Right, I don't know if you could hear it, but he really belted one out. I need to watch that back. Right, maybe some people in the chat can tell us. Right, but you saw it on the TV. But did he actually get hit there proper? Because he was down for a while, wasn't he? I mean, we got about 3 or 4 minutes added to the end of the half, probably because of that injury, if it was an injury. But he does that a lot, doesn't he? He does go down a lot. My son said to me, he goes, why is he down again? Everyone was booing him. I don't know what it was like where you were sitting, Brian, but loads of West Ham fans were booing him for it. And I was kind of in two minds because I was thinking to myself, we can't see that close up, right, to see how badly he got hit. But maybe if you look back on the telly, we will. What did you make out of that? Did you think he was milking it or do you think he actually got knocked there?
My unconscious bias felt he was milking it.
Yeah.
And so not having the opportunity to see it again yet, I have no idea. But naturally, we have seen him go down a little easy in the past. And unconsciously or subconsciously, I then kind of thought he's at it again kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a few people here saying that he dived as well. He was down for ages.
Right.
Didn't look like I'd even been touched. Again, it was hard to tell, but he did scream. Bit of Anyway, I don't think it was a great game by Paqueta today. He wasn't bad. But again, in terms of the levels that we know he can be at, I just don't think he's still not there, is he? He's still not like the Paqueta that we all know and love, right? So for me, I'd give him probably a 6.5. Maybe he gets a 7 for getting the goal. I don't know. Maybe I'm being kind, but I think a 7's probably be more than fair with Paqueta. Just don't think we're getting enough from him, in my opinion, at the minute. Okay, no, I agree with you on that one. I think 7's probably about right. So Who are we missing out here? Jared Bowen.
Yeah, we're missing out. Yeah, Bowen and Kudus. So
Mm.
Bowen was given the official man in the match by the announcer. Most disagree, but I actually agree. I think Bowen was our man of the match for me personally. I think he had an energy today and a persistence that he's probably only shown in one other game this season. And I think, he was pretty much involved in 3 of the goals in some way or another. He took his goal well. The delivery to Antonio was excellent. His crossfield ball to Kudus. In fact, he tried to set up Kudus on 2 occasions. There were big chances. Kudus was unable to convert them. But I just think Bowen's energy today almost felt like he had a point to prove after not making the England squad. And overall, his energy and the blade of grass that he covered that we know he can do, I just think he kind of helped to make the rest of the team tick. So he would be my man in the match. And I'd probably give him a joint 8.5 with Todibo. But yeah, it was kind of like it wasn't like a masterclass, but 8.5 for me, but my man in the match.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think for me, Bowen, it was like watching the Bowen that we're used to. I don't think he's been on form quite recently. I don't. However, today, 2 assists, was it? 2 assists and a goal. Really nice finish.
Officially, I think only 1 assist was given,
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
What was that one for? The second, the first one or the second one?
The first one.
Yeah.
The Antonio one. I think with the other one, which was, whose goal was that again? Paqueta's one. I think what happened is it bobbled off other players as it went across. So I think it was given. I don't think that one was given an assist. I think with all the goals today, technically there was only 1 assist.
Wow.
So, but to us, it's an assist in it. So, and that's why I'm saying he massively contributed to them goals today. So, yeah, that 8.5 for me.
Yeah, I thought for me, because again, I'm behind the goal. Wasn't that far away from me. It looked like a pretty clean cross. I think Antonio might have got a touch because he comes sliding in, didn't he? I don't know if it hit him or what, but for me, it looked. I think he should get an assist for that. And if anything, I'm a bit pissed off because he's in my fantasy team. So you know what? He's been scoring me hardly any points so far recently. So I think he deserves that assist. But yeah, I get it. I mean, man of the match from an attacking perspective, I thought it was definitely one of his best performances he's had for us this season. I agree with you in that respect. I'm just kind of inclined to give it to Todibo because typically it's the defenders that sometimes go a little bit unnoticed, don't they, when they have great games?
Yeah.
It's always the players that get the goals and the assists that kind of typically get man of the matches. But
Yeah,
I think you could arguably say it could be Todibo and it could easily have been Bowen, either one of those. But Bowen was good today. He was good. What about Kudus, Mohamed Kudus?
I was just so happy for him to get a goal today. He's just been trying so hard. And again, he was doing that today. He was trying hard again today, which can sometimes impact the team. It wasn't vintage Kudus, but I think a solid 7.5. Took his goal well. If he had just a little bit more composure, he probably could have had a hat trick today, and that would have definitely elevated his point scoring. But for me, I'd give him a 7.5 just because he had a couple of clear chances that he was unable to take before he got that goal. So one from the Bowen cross, which actually was a good save from the goalkeeper, which he took on the volley, didn't he? And the other one, I think he was pretty much clean through on the left-hand side. And he just, he couldn't set his feet properly. So yeah, that would have really boosted up his score. But I think a solid 7.5 for me.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. And I'm not going to sort of reiterate what you just said, but I agree with everything you just said there. I think it was a good game for Kudus today, and I think he needed that after last week as well. What of all the stuff going on with regards to his spat with Lopetegui and all that kind of nonsense. But yeah, he needed to have a good game today, and I think he needed a goal, as you said. He desperately needed a goal, didn't he? As did the other 3 players that scored as well. So yeah, I would agree with you on that one. And I'm going to take the last one on Antonio. For me, that was like seeing the Antonio of old, Brian. You know, it really was. As I said before, it was a physical performance for him. He was running. He looked a little bit like he just looked a bit sharper today, didn't he? Yeah, it's funny again. Do you know when we talk about how sometimes he's so unorthodox, he doesn't know what he's doing? Reminds me a bit, for anyone in the chat that remembers Paolo One Chop, where he'd get that ball and he'd run. You wouldn't know what he was doing with it. Do you know what I mean? He does remind me a bit like that. And sometimes he just doesn't know what he's going to do it when he gets the ball. But he was good today. And again, another player that's got a lot of stick recently. And to be fair, I've given him a bit of stick, as have many West Ham fans, because he's not been on it. He's not the player of old. He's not, can I say, sometimes people see him as being a bit lazy, and perhaps in some occasions he has been, but maybe that a lot of that is down to fatigue when he's been away with the international teams and stuff like that. But today it was like Antonio of old, and I was really pleased with his performance today. I'm delighted that he got a goal. Certainly not our long-term option, just to clarify, but it was a good performance by him, and I would give Antonio. I'm going to give him an 8. I almost want to give him a higher score than that. I'm going to give Antonio an 8. Yeah, really, really happy with him today. What do you reckon?
Yeah, agreed. It just goes to show what a goal does to people's confidence. I think he was really good. There's not much he didn't do did wrong, basically. But I think I'd probably give him a 7.5. Almost pushing at 8, but I'll give him a 7.5. But as you said, that's the Antonio we want to see, perhaps as maybe like an impact sub coming on for the last 20 minutes and just giving the freedom to run wild, basically. But I'd also like to see, in the future, if maybe in the January transfer window we managed to sort out our striker situation, it would be nice to see Antonio be a wide option as well, for like 15-20 minutes as well. So I'd give him a 7.5.
Do you remember Samasi Abu? Definitely.
Of course.
Love the boo. He was, do you know what? He was, I love that era when you could just pick up a player. I think we paid about 200 grand from him or something like that. And he's a bit of a cult hero, weren't he, for that era?
For sure.
Yeah, but no, I'm not going to compare Antonio to. Oh god, yeah. I'm not going to compare Antonio to Abu. That's a little bit unfair, right? I mean, Abu wasn't with us for very long, And in terms of the substitutions, I'm just trying to think now who came on. We made it, and this is the difference between Lopetegui and Moyes. He's not afraid to make changes. I thought his in-game management today was fantastic. Again, like I said earlier, players that came on. Was there any standouts? Me? No, I don't think there's any standout performances. So it'd probably be a bit pointless to rate all of them. So I'll tell you what we should do is probably rate Lopetegui, actually. How would you rate Lopetegui today on a scale of 1 to 10? It's tricky. This one is tricky. I'd give him, based on the result, you kind of have to give some props, right? So I'd give him a 7. I'd give him a 7 because naturally the players are out there to affect the game, right? So there wasn't necessarily a tactical setup that was genius or was a masterclass, So effectively, the players are out there to do a job, and some of the key players delivered today. Some of the things that he did well, I feel, were the changes. So the substitutions he made, particularly giving Guilherme some game time, I think strategically and tactically is really good to give the young boy some minutes in a game that was basically won, because it would do him the world of good and also give the player an opportunity to go out there and show what he can do. I think also as well, sort of managing Emerson's minutes a little bit, because again, we've got quite an old side. So I think sometimes we take that for granted. So Emerson hasn't been in the best of form, but I think some of that is just managing his game time and minutes and stuff like that. Bringing Soler on as well. Again, it's just good he's just kind of easing him in, because he's got the ability,
but he just needs the game time. And I think when he's up to speed a little bit more with the tempo than maybe Todibo was, but yeah, he's just going to need to embed a little bit more. So yeah, so from like a in-game management side of things, I don't think it was revolutionary, but he does make substitutions to impact the game as opposed to just like token substitutions. The GMA one's kind of token, but I think it was a genius in some respects. So I'd give him a 7.
Yeah. I mean, I've not really come down too hard on Lopetegui this season. I've been frustrated with him in terms of lineups, formations, definitely. I think our style of play, again, I still don't quite know what it is. I'm still trying to understand what that identity is. But I'm going to give him a decent score today because the lineup, you could arguably say that if we played some of those players that perhaps we did want in the first team, in the first 11, we would have won that game at a canter anyway, right? You could arguably say that. But the fact is, we won it with the team that he put out. And I do think the substitutions that he made in game were very good and also at the right times as well. I think he timed them almost perfectly, actually, those subs. You can see Antonio's running out of steam, taking Paqueta off, switching Kudus down to the right. All those different things that he did, I thought were absolutely bang on. I can't fault it. So, yeah, for me, I'd give him an 8. I think he needs a bit of credit. Somebody give it to him today, Yeah, nice. Hopefully we can take this into the Spurs game, right? I mean, that's the crucial one. But just real quickly before we go, and I did want to speak about the next game, obviously, as well after the international break, just real briefly. Liam Delap, right? I've kept this comment up here for a reason. I've had conversations with a few people today, actually, where I was sitting, also with my son. I really like him, and I'll tell you something. I don't think we're going to buy him in January, by the way. I think it's way too soon. But to me, he looks like a player that potentially we could have missed out on, mate. We all bang on about. I'm not going to compare him to Duran or Fulkrug or anything like that. But I do like the look of Liam Delap. He looks like a player. I've watched him in a few games this season. Physically, he's strong as well. Yeah. He was giving us some problems in the first half, well, particularly for the first half an hour. He was very good. Well, what do you think of Liam Delap?
Yeah, no, I agree. He's strong, but he's also very mobile, and he's physical and he's direct. And I love a striker that's direct. Do you know what I mean? I like a striker that's ruthless, and's got an eye for goal. Kind of like Collymore-esque, Collymore is someone who, again, is in his time was a striker with a lot of ability and very underrated, but was very selfish in some respects. So I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Definitely, it'd be a great one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So look, just a real quick one, okay? Next game, Spurs. What do you reckon? Do you reckon we got that? Do you reckon we can beat them?
The thing is, like on paper, the neutrals will see that as a Spurs win. I think we always raise our game for Spurs, home and away. It tends to go with whoever's ground it's at. So we're playing at their ground, and I think it'll be a tough one. I think we'll go and give it a good go, and it's all about when we're out of possession, because they're naturally going to play really attacking and play a high line. So it depends on our midfield setup, because say like if we played the system we played today against Tottenham, we'll get picked off. We would get picked off, or we would present them with a lot of chances, basically. It's whether they take their chances. But on the flip side, I actually feel that we could cause them quite a lot of trouble as well. So London Derby, it's making sure that we pick the right team. They understand the, how important the game is to the fans. And yeah, do you know what? I think that would be a score draw.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna hold my predictions for the moment. I don't know. I don't want to say anything too soon. It's 2 weeks from now, but I think that we needed that win today. So let's just focus on the positives. Great win today. 3 points in the bag. First home win of the season in the league, right? Yeah, I'm well happy today. Really, really happy. And look, thank you, mate, for joining tonight. I think we've been speaking for the last hour and a half, and look, really appreciate your time as usual, mate. And I will see you very soon. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Really appreciate all the comments and everything else tonight. Thank you. Leaf Davis. Don't know about him. I can't rate him, Colin. Sorry, mate. I couldn't tell you whether I rate him or not. But no, thank you everyone tonight. Really appreciate it. Please do like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Liking really does help. It really does, and it makes, I guess, our shows more visible to other people on YouTube as well. In particular, Sport West Ham. So, really appreciate your support, guys. Thank you, Brian. Have a great evening, everyone, and yeah, we'll see you soon. Cheers, guys. Come your irons.